guys, welcome back to Ninjago News TV. Today we received episode 94, also known as the season finale for Hunted. So as usual, I have a lot to talk about here, and let's get started. The episode picks up where the last one left off, with the ninja from the first round coming on their new dragons. Jay and Nia reunite, and everyone reunites basically. The ninja in the first realm haven't seen the ninja in Ninjago in a while, so it's a big reunion. However, there's no time to waste. The Garmadon is still a looming threat, and they gotta stop him. So it's decided that Wu and Lloyd will go to face Garmadon. Meanwhile, the other ninja do other stuff while Lloyd and Wu are on their way to face Garmadon. They do a couple heroic tasks on their dragons, helping citizens, and Dareth even has an encounter with Gale Gossip, and he rescues her from some Sons of Garmadon members. Meanwhile, in Cryptarium, we get a glimpse of what's happening there. And when the jailed people, when the prisoners find out that the ninja have returned, they're given hope, and they pretty much rebel against the Sons of Garmadon and break out. So Ronin, Misako, and all the elemental masters break out. Now we get to the real action. Wu and Lloyd actually confront Garmadon, and a big fight breaks out between them. Garmadon is kind of like unlocking his true potential right now, and he's gained new abilities. He can create like elemental explosions, shockwaves pretty much, and he could summon weapons. So he does that exactly, both of them, and Wu's actually knocked off the building by one of his elemental explosions, which leaves just Lloyd to face him. Wu goes to help the other ninja, who are trying to chain up the Colossus and bring it down. Basically, they're tying chains around, the same chains that were in the first realm, using those guns. And they're doing that. And the Ultra Hunt prisoners also come as well to help with the event, tying chains around the Colossus in an effort to bring it down. Meanwhile, Lloyd is still facing off Garmadon alone. And basically, the fight is an exchange with the Dragon Bone Blade, with Garmadon wielding it for some time, and then Lloyd, but then eventually it gets knocked off the building or something. Something happens to it, and nobody's wielding it in the end. So a fight breaks out, pretty much where Lloyd says, "I will not fight you, but I will resist you." And he basically uses the art of the silent fist, which is ironic since that's something Garmadon invented, and he uses it against him. Eventually, Garmadon actually loses his powers, and that is when Lloyd regains his powers in a kind of true potential-ish kind of way. Garmadon is now vulnerable and weak, and Lloyd pretty much takes Garmadon, but not before he warns Lloyd about what's going to come, about the ominous threat he saw in the Departed Realm. However, the Sons of Garmadon are jailed, as well as Garmadon too, and everything is peaceful now. The ninja have a celebration, and they're back in their Season 8 robes, and the fold is actually in Lego form now, and basically there's a huge celebration with lots of fireworks. Now in the final scene, we see Lloyd go up to Master Wu, who's with the Firstborn Dragon, and ask him if he saw any Oni in the first realm. The very end of the episode ends with Lloyd saying that he thinks that the threat coming to Ninjago will be the Oni, and it ends on that ominous note. Alright, so now I'm going to talk about what I liked about this episode. For one, I really liked the fight between Wu, Lloyd, and Garmadon. That was amazing. That was probably the best part of the entire episode. Wu versus Garmadon was hyped up. Even though that didn't happen, it happened in some form. Wu was facing Garmadon alone for a brief moment, but mostly it was Lloyd versus Garmadon. And I'm not too surprised, to be honest, because the season seemed to be building up towards Lloyd versus Garmadon rather than Wu versus Garmadon, which was never really hinted at all. Garmadon is also amazing in this episode, even after he's gotten defeated and he's saying that ominous warning pretty much. A lot of his dialogue in this episode is really powerful, and I love his dialogue in this episode. I like that the ninja went back to their Season 8 robes after defeating Garmadon, of course, and that celebration scene was super cool. Awesome to see the Weekend Whip and the fold in Lego form, actually. And, of course, a lot of the relationships between characters are restored in this episode, with the Kai and Skylar, Jay and Nia, and Zane and Pixel all being active once more. Ninja were also very cool on their dragons. We got to see their new dragons actually in action, and they mastered the chains pretty much. It's obvious that Faith really taught them a lot. The exchange of the Dragon Bone Blade during the fight was really cool, and in addition, the best part of this episode is probably Lloyd gaining his powers again. That was an amazing scene with amazing music. Of course, that's a rendition of the Green Ninja theme. And of course, the last part about this episode that I want to talk about is the ominous ending, that major foreshadowing. I wouldn't really call it a cliffhanger, but I'd call it major foreshadowing, pretty much, We didn't actually see the Oni in this episode, but I think it was done just right, and it certainly foreshadows what is to come next. So now for things I didn't like as much. I felt that there were definitely a fair share of errors in this episode, such as Garmadon losing his powers, which really didn't make sense. How did he just lose his powers? If it's the fight that fuels him, well, somebody brought this up to me on Discord, but he was not fighting for the majority of Season 9. He was only fighting while he was doing that thing with Mistake. That was his only fight during Season 9 up until this point. In addition, Nia did pretty much nothing in this episode, which was a little sad to see. I wanted to see her do something in this episode, but she only appeared once or twice, which was a little disappointing to say the least. Garmadon's fate was also really underwhelming. Come on, he just went to jail? That's definitely not what I was predicting. I thought he would probably turn good or die or something, but I gotta say, it was really underwhelming. He's too important of a character to go to jail. However, I can make an exception for this. I think one of the major reasons why he's still alive is because he's gonna return in Season 10, either to help the ninja or as another threat, but the only reason he's alive, in my opinion, is to be used again in Season 10. I think that's the only reason they didn't turn him good or kill him, because he could still do something in the next season, of course. The Ultra Hunt thing was a little weird, too. Why didn't all of those guys just break out in the first place? It made no sense why they waited this long to break out, and that was just really confusing to me. Now we're going to talk about the plot. The plot was pretty good in this episode, for the majority. I like the scenes at the end, and of course the final fight with Garmadon and his defeat. Of course, the foreshadowing for Season 10 was really amazing, and I give the plot a full 2.5 points. Now for characters. This is where some of the issues come in. As I've already said, I wasn't too fond of Garmadon's fate. That's something that's going to get points taken off. There was that thing that I didn't like about the Ultra Hunt prisoners just choosing now to break out, and of course, Nia really didn't appear in this episode at all. I give characters 2 out of 2.5 points. And action. There was a ton of action in this episode, right? From the Wu and Garmadon and Lloyd fight, and of course taking down the Colossus, even breaking out of prison. There was a lot of action in this episode, especially the foreshadowing too. I give that full points. And emotion. There's emotion also in much of Garmadon's lines, especially in the scenes where Lloyd was fighting Garmadon individually. Lloyd asked him if he could change, something like that, and Garmadon goes, youthful ignorance, people don't change, only reveal their true personalities. I really like that, and of course, Lloyd getting his powers back was a really well done scene, so I give emotion the full 2.5 points. My final score for this episode is 9.5 out of 10. This episode was not my favorite of the season. It did have quite a few errors, but that being said, it was an amazing season finale, probably one of the better ones. It surpasses seasons like Season 1 and definitely Season 8 in terms of season finales, and it resolved Season 8 and Season 9 while also setting up a much greater threat. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe, share with anyone ever you know. I will see you next time.